It's been 6 months since my last cup of coffee. Am I still tempted by my husband's daily brewing and drinking of coffee every morning? How's my sleep? How's my mood? How am I feeling overall? Let's talk about it. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. If you don't mind, please hit that like and subscribe button while you're here. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how it's been without coffee in my life for it's actually almost 7 months, how things are going, and do I plan on going back to drinking coffee anytime soon? Before I jump into all of that, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Self-Decode. I will put a link in the information section for you guys for Self-Decode. But in the last video I did talking about why I was quitting coffee, I mentioned that I was doing a test with Self-Decode. It is a DNA test. And it's not a death sentence by any means. When you get these reports back, it tells you how your genes can play out and how different things in your environment can affect how your body expresses these specific genes. One of the genes I was very interested in, there's actually a few different SNPs, 5 I believe to be exact, was how my body processes and metabolizes caffeine, again, based on these genetic SNPs. Well, here's a copy of how that's going for me. I have 4 out of 5 SNPs that basically say, Sarah, you should not be drinking coffee. Your body cannot metabolize caffeine very well. I am just a poor metabolizer of caffeine based on my genetics. So there's your answer for you on whether or not genetically caffeine is a good idea for me. I also found out a lot of very interesting things about myself, which I'll be going into in future videos. One thing of interest that I definitely will mention here really quickly, and this is just in the basic DNA wellness report, is that I have a propensity to have less satiety and a higher BMI, which makes basically my entire life make lots of sense, having just struggled with my weight from a very young age. Now, again, our genes are not a death sentence. That is why I do what I do, why I eat what I eat. I also found out I have the APOE4 gene, which is going to make me more prone for Alzheimer's, brain disease, and these dementia types of diseases that happen in the brain. For me, that's motivation. For me, that's like, I need to keep doing what I'm doing. So if you're curious how your body really works, how your genes are, please check out Self-Decode. You can use the link in the information section below. All right, so let's jump into this coffee business. So you've seen basically my first point, genetically, coffee and caffeine are just not the best idea for me. I'm a poor metabolizer. They stay in my body for a long time, which is going to make my really first point make a lot of sense. So I wear an Oura ring. I don't have any affiliation with them at all. I just really enjoy tracking my sleep data, my recovery data, and all those things. It's kind of fun for me. But one of the things that you can get on your Oura ring is your HRV rate, your heart rate variability. And this is really how well your body is recovering, how well you're dealing with stress. And I was always a little bit, I guess, worried because my HRV was in the teens. And it should be about your age. So my HRV was like a 16, 17. I'll show you some data from January, and you can see the HRV was pretty low, and that was just how it's been since I've had this ring, which is almost 3 years now. And again, no affiliation with Oura Ring. I just like it. I would love to get a code at some point from them, but not yet. I don't think I'm popular enough to get one, but that was a little troublesome for me because I knew that my HRV was supposed to be closer to my age, and that lower HRV meant that my body in some way was not really handling stress so well. So one of the first things that happened when I got off of coffee, I would say within about 6 weeks, it did take some time for my body to recover, but within about 6 weeks, my HRV doubled. And now my HRV is in the 40s, which is great because I'm 42. So your HRV should be right around your age. And so now my HRV is at a good level for my age. It does go up sometimes. It is a little bit higher sometimes. If I am fasting, it'll go a little bit higher, but This is good. It's good. So I'm excited to see that my heart rate variability, really the inner workings of my body and how I'm handling stress since giving up the coffee has essentially doubled, if not gotten a little bit higher. Speaking of recovery and sleep, I am getting some really good sleep. Now, I will let you guys know that I use magnesium before bed, and I think that most of us are deficient in magnesium. Our soil is depleted. It's just a really hard mineral for a lot of us to get. So I use Upgraded Formulas magnesium. I'll link it below in the information section for you guys. If you want a good magnesium, this is the one to get. And that has helped me with my sleep tremendously. But since cutting the coffee and using the magnesium, I am getting like 3 hours a night sometimes of deep sleep. And again, this is on my Oura Ring. So I was never really able to get much over an hour and a half of deep sleep, which is still really good. Once you get into your late 30s and early 40s, an hour of deep sleep is really what's average for most people. So I was doing pretty decent with getting an hour and 30 minutes, but now I can get up to 3 hours. Average for me is at least 2 hours, and a lot of the time 2.5 hours a night of deep sleep. And that again has come with staying off of the coffee. So for me, absolutely my sleep has improved tremendously coming off of the coffee. Speaking of minerals, it's a lot easier for me now to balance my electrolytes, to keep my electrolytes in check. As I mentioned in the very beginning of this video, I do have the APOE4 gene, which leads to Alzheimer's, dementia, all kinds of issues with brain health. And I follow a low carb, actually more of a keto carnivore diet. I guess you could call it ketovore. There's so many different labels these days, and I'm just not really about the labels, but the way that I eat is high fat and nutrient dense, right? Without carbohydrates. And I do that now. I'm more motivated to continue to do that, knowing that I have that gene in place. But when you eat a diet that is devoid of carbohydrates, or when you do fasting, your insulin is going to be a lot lower. When your insulin is lower, you're going to let go of minerals a lot easier. And so it is important, in my personal opinion, again, this is not medical advice, that people do pay attention to their electrolytes. They do supplement with electrolytes. I have used Upgraded Formulas over this last year and been really happy with them using the hair tissue mineral analysis. So I send in a sample of my hair and they analyze it and can actually tell me if I'm low on potassium or sodium, magnesium, calcium, all of these minerals. And I do recommend the consultation. But I have been having a much easier time with the electrolytes. For a while there, I felt like I was just chasing minerals, chasing electrolytes, trying to add more of this and add more of that. And it was like this big science experiment. Since I quit the coffee, it's so much easier for me to balance my electrolytes. I just do a little bit of Soleil water, a little potassium, and I'm good. I do it a couple times a day and I'm good. If I get lazy, I will sometimes just grab an LMNT packet. I have been using those more. I know some people really hate those. I don't love people to do those as a first line of defense, especially if you're having trouble balancing your electrolytes. But now that my electrolytes are just much more easily staying in a good place, I think this is due to the fact that caffeine is a diuretic, and coffee is a diuretic. It's going to make you lose minerals faster. So it's like low carb, keto carnivore plus coffee is like disaster for your electrolytes. So I do use the packets every now and then, and it's fine. But just going back to my original point, without the coffee in my life, I am much more able to keep my electrolytes balanced and stable. Energy. I have a natural energy now. I used to literally go from my bed straight to the kitchen to drink that cup of coffee immediately. And now I wake up when the sun comes up, I'm outside, I'm looking at the sunrise. It's just a natural thing. I've also, if you watch the vitamin D video I did last week, really made an effort to get up every morning and look at the sunrise, really check out that sun, get that signaling in my eyes. But without coffee, my sleep is better, and then I wake up with energy. I have sustained energy throughout my day. And so I was really terrified when I quit the coffee that I was not going to have any energy, and that has absolutely not been the case for me at all. It's a more sustained energy. I can work out, do the things I love, and my circadian rhythms are much more in balance. The other weird thing about not doing coffee is that I used to love coffee. I loved the taste, I loved the smell. My husband, like I mentioned in the very beginning of the video, still brews a pot of coffee every single morning. I smell it when I wake up, and now it's kind of gross to me. Like, for this took a while. This is probably within the last month or so that the smell and just like looking at coffee and the smell of it is gross to me, which is bizarre because I have thought for so many years. I started drinking coffee when I was 19. I thought, oh my gosh, I love coffee. I love the taste. I love the smell. I'd buy like, scented things with coffee, which I don't do scented things anymore. That's another video for another day. But I used to buy scented things with coffee and just loved, scented candles with the smell of coffee. And now it just doesn't smell good anymore, which is bizarre to me. I think it's just that my body has been off of it for a long enough time, and I've had such a positive response that I just have no desire to drink it. So what about me worrying about missing out on the benefits of drinking coffee? There are a ton of biohackers that say there are great benefits of coffee, and I do recommend if you're going to drink coffee, drink a brand like Purity or Bulletproof. Get one that's non-toxic, that they've had, look for mold and those types of things. So if you're going to drink it, just go for a non-toxic brand. So biohackers are all into their Purity brand coffee or their Bulletproof coffees and say there's benefits for your brain and your metabolism. And that's great. But for me at this point, knowing myself, knowing who I am, I get addicted to things. And that genetic report from Self Decode also confirmed that for me. My mitochondrial haplotype is one that has issues with addiction and metabolizing stress properly. That's just my genetics, which again, my whole life makes perfect sense now. So going back to a cup of coffee, right? Even though it's kind of sounds gross to me at this point, I know that if I had a cup of coffee today, I would want another one tomorrow and then the next day, and it would just become a thing because I've done this before. I've never done it for this long. I think the longest I've ever had stayed off coffee was maybe 6 weeks. But after 6 weeks, I had the cup of coffee and then I was drinking it again every day. So I know that I just get addicted to things. This is why staying in a low carb lifestyle, I see it as a lifestyle now. I see carnivore, keto, whatever the heck that I'm doing. I'm not eating carbs. I'm eating high fat. I'm eating lots of meat. That works for me. That works for me to just not have those foods that are addictive to me, like croissants and bagels and the, simple starchy carbs. Those things just cause an addictive thing to go off in my brain, and I feel that coffee is the same exact way for me. So yes, I know there's health benefits of coffee because I'll probably have somebody commenting below and saying, you should look at these health benefits. But for me, the risk outweighs the reward. The risk of me going back to coffee and then getting addicted again. And it was a horrible addiction with a horrible withdrawal. If you want to know how I came off of it, go back and watch that previous coffee video. I go into detail of how I quit the coffee step by step, how I came off of it, how I felt, all of those things. I just don't want to ever have to go through that again personally. And all these results, having better sleep, better recovery, this is huge for me. This is really great for me. And I feel like I never want to go back to coffee. And again, in recovery, we say it's just one day at a time. So today I'm not going to drink coffee. Hopefully tomorrow I'll wake up and not drink coffee. But I'm really not planning on adding coffee back into my life at any point in time. So that's my take on coffee. That's my 6-month update on coffee. I hope this has been helpful. I'm sure there are some questions that might have stirred up. Feel free to drop them in the comments below. As I mentioned in the beginning, make sure to share, like this video. Check out Self Decode if you want to know how your genes are in relation to coffee. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.